Exclusive videos, story continuations, and bonus content are already available on Patreon before YouTube, so check the link in the description for early access to all new recaps and continuations. Last thing he remembered was red at and the sound of a crash. Even not pain, just sound, like if someone slammed the door very loudly and very close. And silence. Not that kind at night. Another, absolute, without the hum of cars, no wind, without breath. He hung in this void and didn't feel any body nor time. Then something tugged, pulled down, abruptly, as if a hook had stuck under the ribs and pulled through the floor of which there was. He opened his need and saw a wooden ceiling, dark beams, dust in the rightful of light, the scent of needeth, and something burnt. He tried to lift his hand, and his hand rose, but it was not his hand. Fingers long and stiff, at knuckles, calluses, under the nails, dirt. He turned his hand and saw the room, a low table, a scroll on the table, sword by the wall, not fake, a real one, with a worn handle and scratches on the scabbard. It sat down. The body obeyed, but strange, as if he put on a suit that fits perfectly to measure, but it's still foreign. Muscles knew something that didn't. When he reached for the pitcher with water, the hand moved in an arc which he had planned. Not his habit. Someone else's memory. He drank water and looked at my hands once a time, then stood up. My legs held firmly. He took a step and felt his body wanting to move in a certain way. Wider, firmer, with weight on the heel. That's how people walk who are used to carrying weight, armor or weapons. He walked over to the table and unrolled the scroll. Characters. He didn't know Chinese. He didn't know anything at all except that 30 minutes ago he had been delivering a pizza to the intersection of Lenin and 8th of March. And now here he was, standing in a stranger's body in a stranger's room, looking at a stranger's sword. The door opened. A man in his 50s entered. Broad shoulders, straight back, a face carved from stone. He wore a dark robe with embroidery he couldn't read, but which looked expensive. The man stopped and looked at him, for a long time, without blinking. Then he said something, and he understood. Not through language, not through translation, he just understood, as if the words had entered his head directly, bypassing his ears. The man said he was glad to see him on his feet, that 3 days ago he had lost consciousness during meditation, and the physician could not find the cause, that his mother had not slept for 3 nights, that there were 9 days left until the selection for the Imperial College, and that he must be ready. The man spoke evenly, no pressure, but there was something in his eyes that made him want to sit up straight and nod. He nodded. The man nodded back and left. He stood alone in the room, trying to breathe evenly. 9 days, college, selection. He looked at the sword against the wall, then at his hands, then back at the sword. In his past life, the sharpest thing he'd ever held was a pizza knife. He sat back down on the bed and closed his eyes. Panic washed over him in waves. He counted his breaths. 1, 2, 3. By 10, it got easier. He opened his eyes and began to survey the room anew. No longer as a man who had just died, but as a man trying to survive. A wardrobe against the wall. Clothes inside. 3 sets. 1 plain, 1 with light armor on the shoulders and chest. 1 formal. Under the clothes, a leather bag. A map in the bag. He unfolded the map and began to look at it. Mountains to the west. A plain to the east. A river that divided the territory in half. A fortress to the north. And beyond the mountain range, a territory shaded in black. No names, no roads, just a black spot. He looked at that spot and felt a chill run down his spine. Not from fear, from something else, as if the spot on the map knew he was looking at it. He rolled up the map and put it away. Then he pulled another scroll out of his bag. This one was shorter. And suddenly he could read the characters on it. Not all of them, but enough. A list. His name was first, Liang He, son of Commander-in-Chief Liang Jian, candidate for the entrance exams to the Imperial Military Academy, category, Air Warrior. He read the name 3 times. Liang He. That was him now. A courier from the suburbs who hadn't made it to his client had become the son of the commander-in-chief in a world of swords and maps with black spots. He placed the scroll on the table and rubbed his face with his hands. His hands smelled of herbs, the same ones he'd smelled when he woke up. A healer, 3 days unconscious. So the body's former owner hadn't just fallen asleep. He'd died, or been killed. Someone had freed this body, and someone, or something, had dragged him here. He looked at the sword again, stepped closer, grasped the hilt. His hand fit perfectly. His fingers closed around it on their own. He pulled the sword from its sheath. The blade slid out silently. The steel glinted in the beam of light. He raised the sword before him and felt his body assume a fighting stance. Feet slightly wider than shoulder width apart, weight on the back leg, left hand behind his back. He hadn't done it consciously. His body did it on its own. The muscle memory of the sword's former owner worked like autopilot. He made one swing. The air whistled. Clean, precise. He made a second, a third. On the fourth, he lost his coordination and nearly dropped the sword. His body knew the movements, but his mind didn't know when the next one would begin. It's like getting behind the wheel of a stranger's car. The pedals are the same, but the gear shift is different. He sheathed the sword, sat down on the floor, and began to think. 9 days. He doesn't know the world, doesn't know the rules, doesn't know the people around him. The body is trained, but operates blindly. His father was waiting for feats of valor. His mother hadn't slept for 3 nights. And he didn't even know how to hold chopsticks properly in this world. He could have panicked, could have cowered in a corner and waited for someone to explain. But he used to deliver pizza during rush hour in the city center. He knew what a timer was, what a route was, what work is when things don't go according to plan. He stood up, put on simple clothes from the closet, opened the door, and went outside. The courtyard was huge. Stone slabs on the ground, high walls all around, trees with red leaves by the far wall. 3 people were training in the center of the courtyard, moving in sync, swords in their hands, precise steps. He stood in the shadows by the door and watched, memorizing how the legs moved, how the shoulders turned, when to inhale and when to exhale. He didn't know how to fight, but he knew how to watch and memorize routes. Before, it had been streets. Now it was movements. One of the trainees noticed him and stopped. He looked. Then he nodded, respectfully. He nodded back. Not because he deserved respect, but because the body he wore was the body of an heir. And for now, no one knew that inside was not a warrior, but a courier. He was going to use this time. The first day he spent on reconnaissance. He did the gate, didn't able to anyone unnecessary. He just walked around the grounds and looked around. The estate of the Liang turned out to be a small fortress. The outer wall was 4 human tall. Behind it, leading to the city. Inside, 3 courtyards. The first entrance courtyard. The second is the living area. Third, training. In the front courtyard, he saw banners with the coat of arms of the family. golden lion on a black field. In the courtyard, he found rooms, mother and fathers, servants, guest rooms. In training, there were wooden dummies and racks with weapons, swords, spears, halberds, bows. Everything real. Everything with scuffs from thousands of blows. He touched each weapon and waited to the bodies of the body. The sword responded immediately. The spear was slower. The halberd not at all. Bow he doesn't could pull it. More precisely, but the body didn't find its position. That means the former owner was practicing with a sword and spear. The rest was optional. He remembered it. By the evening, the first day, he found out a few things. Servants in the 12 people. There, her is Mrs. May. She quiet woman with quick eyes who sees everything. When he came for dinner, she was watching at him as if was something on his face. He ate in silence. Chopstick's body held itself. That was trifle, but it saved him. Father during said much. He said that the repairman, Gu went to check his condition after his illness. He said that the master, Gu Wen, is the best mentor in the side of the new, and that his opinion will be all or liang he be to the trials. He nodded. Inside he can shrunk. Master. Check. If this master even knows in martial, he will be everything in 5 seconds. We'll see that the body is moving on autopilot, but the head doesn't understand what is happening. At night he didn't sleep. He went for the yard. The moon was bright. He took sword and began move, without think, letting his body take the lead. His body executed the sequence. An overhead strike, a step to the side, a turn, a low strike, a block. He counted the movements. The sequence consisted of 8 elements. Then it repeated. He ran through it 10 times. On the 11th try, he attempted to intervene, to change a single step. His body stumbled, like a car whose steering wheel was turned the wrong way at full speed. He almost fell. He understood. Muscle memory only works if he doesn't interfere. As soon as he tries to think, everything breaks down. So during the master's test, he mustn't think. He must let go of his body and not interfere with it. It sounds simple. But for a man who was used to controlling every movement, because it determined whether he could deliver an order in 30 minutes, it was harder than it seemed. He trained until dawn. He ran through the sequence 50 times. By morning, his body ached, but in a different way. Not like after an accident, like after a good workout. He went back to his room. He washed up, changed clothes, sat down and waited for the master. Master Gu Wen arrived around noon, a short man in his 60s, lean, wiry, with a gray beard and eyes that moved faster than anyone he'd ever seen. The master entered the training courtyard and looked at him. Didn't say hello. He didn't smile. He just told him to pick up the sword. He did. The master told him to demonstrate the basic form. He let his body go. He didn't think. He just let his muscles do the work. His body flowed through the sequence. 8 movements, clean, without hesitation. The master watched. Then he told him to repeat it, but faster. He repeated it. His body handled it. The master nodded. Then, without warning, he pulled a short stick from behind his back and struck. Not hard, but fast. And that's when everything went wrong. His body started to dodge, automatically. But he got scared, and he interfered. He tried to jump back. His body wanted to move sideways, but he jerked backward. They collided in the middle of the movement, and he fell. On his back, in front of the master, in front of his father, who was standing by the wall watching. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Master Gu Wen looked down at him. Then he looked at his father, then back at him, and said that the body was fine, that the reflexes were intact, but something was getting in the way. Something inside was conflicting with his movement. He said it was like qi stagnation after a serious illness. What happens when a person lies unconscious for a long time and the flow of energy in the channels gets disrupted? His father asked if it could be fixed in the remaining days. The master replied that it could, but it would take work. Every day, from morning till night. He said he would come tomorrow and would come every day until the trials. Father nodded. The master left. Father walked over to him. He reached out his hand and helped him up. He said nothing. He just helped him up and left. He stood alone in the dusty courtyard and felt his heart pounding. The master hadn't seen through him. He explained it all as chi stagnation. He'd gotten lucky. But luck doesn't last forever. He needed to learn not to interfere with the body's work, to learn to trust muscles that weren't his own, to learn to be a passenger in his own body. That night, his mother came to him. She knocked softly. She brought tea. She sat down next to him and was silent for a long time. Then she said he had changed. She said that before there had been a flame in his eyes, but now there was something else, something quiet and attentive. She said she didn't know what had happened to him during those 3 days when he hadn't regained consciousness, but that she could see he had returned a different person. He didn't know what to say. He said that illness changes people. She looked at him for a long time. Then she smiled. She said that change can be for the better. She stood up and left. He drank his tea and thought that the mother of this body was smarter than she seemed, and that sooner or later she would understand. The question was what she would do when she did. The next 5 days merged into a single streak of pain and sweat. Master Gu Wen came every morning. He made him work with a sword, with a spear, without weapons, running, stretching, breathing exercises. The master called it restoring the flow of qi. He called it survival. Every day he learned the same thing. Don't interfere. Don't think. Don't try to control. Let the body do what it knows how to do. By the 3rd day, he was able to go through the basic sequence without a single misstep. By the 5th day, the master struck him with a stick without warning, and he dodged the blow cleanly. His body moved out of the way. He didn't interfere. The master smiled, for the first time in all those days. He said the stagnation was passing, that he would be ready for the trials. He nodded. He didn't say he wouldn't be ready, that the basic sequence and dodging a stick were one thing, and what awaited him in the trials was something else entirely. He had seen how the other candidates trained. The son of the governor of the eastern province, the daughter of a weapons master from the capital, the nephew of a general in the southern army. They moved as if they'd been born with a sword in their hands, because that was exactly how it was. They didn't struggle with their own bodies. They were their bodies. And he was a tenant, a temporary resident in a stranger's house with furniture that couldn't be moved. On the evening of the 5th day, he sat on the roof of his room and looked at the stars. The stars were different. Not a single familiar constellation. A different sky. A different world. And he was alone in it. Without instructions. Without a map. Without a rewind button. But with a sword and with 9 days, of which 4 remained. On 6th day, it was something that he had expected. At a state arrived Uncle Liang Shu. Younger of him. He entered through the gate, accompanied 4 bodyguards and 2 servants with travel trunks. He was dressed in dark blue robe with silver embroidery. He smiled. The smile was so as he had at managers at corporate events. Broad, confident, empty. Father met him in the yard. They hugged each other. Liang Shu said that he had come to support his nephew before the big day. What could remain in the capital when his brother is getting ready for exams? What brought gifts and good news? He was watching from his room. I watched as my moves. How he stands, how he turns toward his father. Courier instinct kicked in. The same instinct that prompted that the client would give a tip anymore. Before that, before the door. Liang Shu turned to his father with his Eevee, but his were pointed toward the exit, as a person who already ready to leave or run away. He remembered it. During Liangshu talked. He told about the capital, about that how the emperor is preparing for grand inspection, the instinct that in this year, at the record number of applicants, about this that the Black Crane has submitted a petition for expanding trade routes through the northern pass. Father mentions the Black Crane. He frowned. He said that the northern pass is military territory. What kind of trade there be there? Liangshu softly remarked that times are that trade brings gold, and gold strengthens the army. Father didn't answer. He sat and listened. He in silence. He watched. Liangshu turned toward him and asked how the training sessions. He replied briefly that the Master Gu Wen is with the progress. Liangshu smiled and said that he had brought a gift. He took out from his a small pouch. Inside was a jade amulet on a cord, green with gold veins, beautiful. Liangshu said that the amulet strengthens the flow chi and helps during meditation. He said that he had it from a master artifacts in the capital, specifically for his nephew. He took the amulet, and in that moment, when his fingers touched the stone, he felt something. Not warm, not cold, something third, like static electricity, but inside, under the skin, in the bones. It lasted for a fraction of a second, then it vanished. He thanked his uncle. He put away the amulet in pocket. I put it on. At night, he took out an amulet and placed on table. I looked at it. The stone looked ordinary. Beautiful, but ordinary. But that feeling, that charge. He didn't know what chi was. He couldn't sense it. His body might have sensed it, but he didn't know how to read it. However, what he felt from the amulet didn't feel like help. It felt like something creeping inside. He wrapped the amulet in a cloth and put it in the very back drawer of the cabinet. He decided not to wear it, and not to tell anyone about it. On the morning of the 7th day, Master Gu Wen arrived earlier than usual. He looked serious. He said that today they would be working not with weapons, but with chi. He tensed up. Chi was a realm he didn't understand at all. With a sword, his body moved on its own. But chi was something internal. Energy. A flow. Something that didn't exist in his past life. The master told him to sit down, close his eyes, breathe. He sat down, closed his eyes, breathed. Nothing happened. The master told him to direct his attention inward, to the center of his abdomen, where the channels converge. He focused. Darkness. Silence. Nothing. He sat like that for 20 minutes. The master sat beside him and said nothing. Then the master placed his hand on his back. And he felt it, as if someone had turned on a light in a dark room. There was something inside his body, warm, slow, like a river flowing very deep. He couldn't control it, couldn't direct it, but he could feel it. The master removed his hand. The light went out. The river vanished. The master said his chi channels were fine, that the flow was there and it was strong, but that it was as if he were learning to feel it all over again, like a child who had forgotten how to walk after a long illness. He nodded. It was an accurate description. He was a child in a warrior's body. The master said that during the trials, a chi test would be mandatory, not a combat test, just a demonstration that the candidate is capable of controlling the flow. A basic level, directing chi into the hand, or into a weapon. Nothing difficult for someone who had trained since childhood. Impossible for someone who had learned of the existence of chi 3 days ago. For the next 3 days, he trained both his body and his chi. Swords and spears with the master in the morning, breathing exercises in the afternoon, running around the courtyard in the evening until his legs gave out. Meditation at night. He sat in the dark, trying to feel that river inside. Without the master's help, it was like looking for a black cat in a black room. But on the second night, he found it. For a second. He felt warmth in his stomach. It slid down to his feet and vanished. He opened his eyes and was breathing heavily. 1 second of contact. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Liang Shu stayed at the estate. Every day he would pop up here and there. He talked to the guards. He walked around the courtyard. Once he saw his uncle standing at the gate of the training courtyard, watching him work with the master. He watched intently. Not like a relative who was worried, like a man who was evaluating. On the 8th day, something strange happened. He woke up in the middle of the night because the room was cold. Not just cool, cold, as if a window had been opened in winter. But the windows were closed. He sat up in bed and saw that the wardrobe in the far corner was glowing faintly. A dim, greenish light. He walked over and opened the drawer. The amulet. The very one Liang Shu had given him. The cloth he'd wrapped it in had darkened, as if it had been scorched. The amulet was cold, unnaturally cold, and it was pulsing, weakly but distinctly, like a heartbeat. He didn't touch it. He closed the drawer. He walked back to the bed. He sat down. He thought. His uncle had brought him an artifact that glowed at night and scorched fabric. This wasn't a gift. It was a tool. The question was, for what? He didn't know this world well enough to understand what the amulet did. But he knew people well enough to understand that Liang Shu was playing some game of his own. On the morning of the 9th day, he went down to the courtyard, the last day before the trials. Master Gu Wen stood in the center of the courtyard. His father stood nearby. Liang Shu stood a little further away. The master said that today was the final check, a complete simulation of what would happen during the trials. 3 stages: physical training, weapon proficiency, a demonstration of qi. He nodded. He passed the physical training without issue. Running, jumping, an obstacle course that the master had set up in the courtyard. His body was working. It wasn't getting in the way. Weapons proficiency went smoothly as well. 3 basic sword combinations, 1 with a spear. The master attacked with a stick, and he dodged and counterattacked. Clean, no missteps. The qi demonstration remained. The master told him to take the sword and direct his qi into the blade. He took it, closed his eyes, sought the river within. 1 second. 2. 5. Nothing. Sweat on his forehead. Silence in the courtyard. 10 seconds. He felt his father's gaze, his uncle's gaze. 15 seconds. And then he stopped searching. Stopped trying. He just exhaled and let everything go. Like on those nights when he let his body take the lead. He let go of control, not only over his muscles, but also over what was inside. The river flared up, not gradually, all at once. Warmth surged from his stomach to his chest, from his chest to his hands, from his hands to the sword. The blade glowed, faintly, dimly, barely noticeable, but it glowed. Master Gu Wen exhaled. His father didn't move, but his eyes had changed. Liang Shu smiled, the same empty smile. He opened his eyes and looked at the sword. The glow was already fading, but it had been there. He had done it. The master said that would be enough for tomorrow, that he had been admitted to the trials. The day of the trials began with rain, light, cold. It walked with early morning and didn't end. They drove from estate at dawn. Father, he, Liang Shu, 10 guards, 2 servants. The carriage was heavy and bumpy. The road from the province to capital took 2 days, but my father chose the short path through the front, and they made it by night. The capital opened around a turn as a blow in the face. Huge. Stone walls rose up so high that the top edge was lost in the clouds of rain. The gate measuring as a 5-story house. Guards in armor with spears which were longer than any person. On walls, flags with the Imperial coat of arms. A golden dragon on a red field. They drove through the gate. Inside the city was bustling. The streets were mad and crowded with people. Vendors, soldiers, porters, children. Animals whose many he could identify. Something in between a horse and a lizard. Gray with scales on legs. On them there were riders in light armor. He looked at all this and tried not to show that he thought this for the first time. That's that Liang He had in the capital. Not once. And he didn't. They stopped at the guest house of Lien, a small estate on the outskirts of the district. Father said that the trials will start tomorrow at dawn. What do need to rest? He didn't argue. Head up the room. I lay on the bed, closed my eyes. I sleep. I kept in my everything I knew. 3 stages: physical training, weapons, chi. First 2 he was able to pass, if not will interfere the body. The third was a lottery. He managed to flash his blade once time. Once. This be enough. And or not. In the evening he went out into the yard to get some fresh air, and saw Lien Shu. Uncle was standing by the fence and talking with someone across the side. A person in dark clothing. Faces are visible. Hood. They spoke quietly. Liang Shu something whispered over the fence. A small package. The man took it and disappeared into the alley. Liang Shu turned and saw him. In for a min, my uncle flashed something sharp. Then a smile returned. Liang Shu said that had agreed to purchase medicinal herbs for them. What he for before, that my nephew be in top shape. He thanked him, returned to the room. Medicinal herbs, through the fence, at night, to a person in a hood. He sat on the bed and began think. He him did any evidence. There. Understanding that exactly, Lian Shu. But the picture was coming together. The amulet that pulsates in darkness. Secret meetings. Conversations about the black crane over dinner. And that fact that former owner of body lost consciousness on 3 days without apparent reason. He could blame his uncle. Not without evidence. Not before tests. But he could have. Cautious. Morning came sooner than I wanted. The rain came to an end. He put on his clothes. A light reservation on shoulders and chest. Sword on belt. He went out into the courtyard. Father was waiting. Without armor, in simple dark robe. He looked at his and said one sentence. He said that the Lian wood had retreated. He asked. Didn't asked to repeat the feats of the ancestors. Did not pressured. Just stated a fact. Rod Lien never did retreated. He nodded. They set off to college. Imperial. Imperial College stood on a hill in the center of the capital. The walls are white. The roofs are black. 5 towers. Above the tallest tower, something. He looked closely. A dragon. A real dragon. Huge. Dark blue, with wings that covered the sun when it passed between them. The dragon flew in circles over the college, and a while from time emitted a sound. Low, deep. Just that vibrated the air and the earth under our feet. He stood and watched, his mouth parted slightly. He could help look. That was not movie, it picture. A living dragon in 200 meters above his head? In that moment, he truly realized for the first time where he was. Not in a game, not in a dream, in a world where dragons fly. The square in front of the college was filled with candidates. He counted about 100 people, all young, all armed, all accompanied by attendants, banners of different clans: red, blue, green, gold. Each clan had its own crest. He recognized a few from the map he'd studied: the lion of the Liang clan, the eagle of the Sun clan, the snake of the Fan clan, the crane. A black crane on a white field. The Black Crane clan had also put forward a candidate, a young man about his age, tall, thin, with long black hair tied back in a ponytail. His face showed no emotion, like a mask. He stood alone, without guards or family, just standing and waiting. The college gates opened. A man emerged, an old man in white robes, with a long white beard and a staff made of dark wood. The square fell silent. The old man said that he was the rector of the Imperial Military College, Master Zhou Lin, that this year 30 spots would be allocated for 123 candidates, that the trials consisted of 3 stages, and that the 4th stage, for those who passed all 3, would take place separately. The 4th stage was a meeting with a dragon. The square buzzed with excitement. He stood there and did the math. 123 candidates for 30 spots. 1 spot for every 4 people. And the 4th stage, which no one had warned them about. A dragon. The rector continued. He said the 1st stage would begin in an hour. A physical obstacle course on the college grounds. There was no time limit, but the order of completion determined one's position in the rankings. The top 60 would advance to the 2nd stage. The rest would be eliminated. 60 out of 123. Half would be weeded out in the very 1st stage. He gripped the hilt of his sword, not out of anger, out of tension. His body reacted and lurched slightly forward, into a fighting stance. He forced himself to relax. His father stood behind him. He placed a hand on his shoulder. He said nothing, just a hand on his shoulder, heavy, warm. He walked through the gate along with the other candidates. The escorts remained outside. The college grounds were even larger than they appeared from the outside. A long avenue of stone slabs, on both sides of the building. Barracks, armories, a library, training grounds. And at the very end of the avenue, an open field. Huge, the size of a stadium. An obstacle course had been set up on the field. Walls, moats, suspension bridges, logs, stone pillars, rope nets, mud, water. Everything was wet from the rain, slippery, dangerous. He looked at the course and assessed it. His courier's brain was working. The route, bottlenecks, where to cut corners, where to slow down to avoid falling, where the critical points lie that determine the speed of the entire run. The rector gave the signal. 123 candidates surged forward. He didn't rush to be first. He started at a moderate pace. Let the crowd stretch out. The first obstacle was a 3-meter-high stone wall. His body cleared it effortlessly. His muscles knew how. He simply didn't get in the way. The second obstacle was a water-filled ditch, 4 meters wide. He jumped, landed on the edge, almost slipped, held on, ran on. The third obstacle was logs suspended over a mud pit. The logs were wet and spinning. 3 candidates ahead of him had fallen. He stopped. For a second. He looked at the logs. 4 of them. The distance between them varied. The first and second were close together. The third was far away. The fourth even farther. Most of the candidates jumped one at a time. He saw another way. The first log. Then not to the second, but straight to the third. A long jump. Risky. But the third log was thicker than the others and spun more slowly. From it, he could reach the fourth in a single step. He jumped. The first log, a push, flight. The third log. His feet landed right in the center. The log swayed but didn't spin. A step. The fourth log. And down to the ground. Clean. One of the candidates behind him whistled. He didn't turn around. He ran on. The course stretched on and on. 20 obstacles. He cleared them all. Not the fastest, but not the slowest either. His body was working. He was adding route optimization. Where others went head-on, he looked for angles. Where others wasted energy on a straight line, he saved it with technique. The finish line. He crossed it and looked at the scoreboard. 23rd place, out of 123. In the top third. Good enough. He bent over, hands on his knees, breathing heavily. Rain ran down his face. His muscles were burning, but he made it through. Others were finishing nearby. Some were falling into the mud. Some couldn't get back up. Some were walking back toward the gate, the eliminated. He straightened up and looked at the board again. First place, name, Fan Z, Clan Fan, Snake. He looked at the field and saw him, a guy with muscles that moved beneath his skin like separate creatures. Calm, not even out of breath. Second place, Sunmei, Sun Clan, Eagle, a girl, short, with short hair, and with eyes that moved so fast it was as if she could see everything at once. Third place, Wei Jing, Black Crane Clan, that guy with the mask-like face. He crossed the course like a shadow, without a single wasted movement. He looked at these three and understood. 23rd place is good for survival. But the top 30, who will get a spot in college, is still a long way off. Ahead lie weapons, and chi, and the dragon. Second stage began in that same day, without a break, without rest. 60 of the candidates stood in training field. The rain finally stopped, but the ground was wet and the air heavy. In field 12, 12 coaches from the college, all in identical white armor, all with weapons. The Chancellor, Zhou Lin, announced the rules. Every candidate chooses weapon and engages in a duel with his mentor. Not for the win, for demonstration. The coach evaluates the technique and assigns a rank from 1 to 10. Minimum passing score is 6. I scored less 6, and you're free. He stood in line and looked as others were leaving. Fan Zhe chose a two-handed sword. He went against his mentor, and for 40 seconds he started a series of 12 attacks, each of which forced the mentor take a step back. 10 out of 10, the buzzed. The coach nodded with respect. Fan Zhe returned to the buds from that same stone face. Sun Mei chose a pair of short blades. She moved as if the blades were an extension of fingers. Quick, precise, unpredictable. The mentor missed 2 shots out of 5. 9 out of 10. Wei Jing chose the spear. Long, thin. He worked it like a whip. The mentor blocked everything, but after the match, shook his hand. The spear struck so hard that the vibration passed through the block. 9 out of 10. Its turn was approaching. He chose sword, a one-handed sword. That same type with which I found with the master Gu Wen. He went out to the court. The coach was standing across from him, the man in 40. Calm, with a sword that was longer his own by a handspan. He exhaled. He let go control. He let his body lead. The body stood into a standing position. The first set went cleanly. 8 moves. The instructor blocked everything, but did retreat. The body transformed to second ligament, also clean. The coach nodded and sped up. He launched a counterattack. Quickly. Hard. The body went from the first blow. From the second. On third, he felt that his body didn't know what to do. They are gone. The Gu Wen taught him 3. For 9 days. The former owner of the body knew for sure dozens. But he knew only 3. And all 3 were used. The mentor struck the 4th time. And then he did something he should do. He intervened. His attack. Instead that blocking block or evade, he stepped forward, toward the blow. This it was madness. But his mind wasn't a tangle. His mind was a crossroads. That very one. Lenin Street and 8th of March Street. When you're riding a bike between cars, and the only way to stay alive is not to brake, but to speed up. Not to avoid the collision, but to slip past it. He stepped forward and found himself within the mentor's range, where a long sword is useless, where you need a knife, or an elbow, or your forehead. The mentor didn't expect this. For a split second, he froze. Liang He raised the hilt of his sword and jabbed the instructor in the chest. Not with the blade, with the hilt. The instructor recoiled. The arena froze. Silence. Then the instructor straightened up. He looked at him and smiled. He said the technique was rough, that the basic combinations were at a level 4, but that closing the distance under attack was either genius or madness, and in either case deserved respect. 7 out of 10. He exhaled. 7. The passing score was 6. He had passed. By the skin of his teeth, but he passed. He returned to his spot. His legs were shaking. Not from fatigue, from adrenaline. He passed because he did what he had been taught, not by a swordmaster, but by the city. An intersection. A bicycle. 40 orders per shift. Don't stop. Don't slow down. If you can't go around it, go right through it. 60 candidates. 12 didn't make the cut. 48 remained for 30 spots. The third stage began the next morning. A demonstration of Qi. The venue was different. Not a field, but a hall. A huge stone hall inside the college's main building. Circles were drawn on the floor. In the center of each circle stood a stone stele half a person's height. The rector explained, "You must place your hand on the stele and direct your qi into it. The stele will show the volume and purity of the flow. Blue light is the basic level. Green is average. Gold is the highest. Red means the flow is unstable or contaminated. Black means there is no flow at all. A passing score is blue or higher." He stood in line, sweating. One attempt, one touch. If the stele glows black, it's all over. He watched as the others went through. Fanzi, gold, a bright, pure golden light. The stele rang out. The mentors exchanged glances. Sun Mei, green, steady and consistent. She nodded to herself. Wei Jing, green, but strange, with dark streaks. One of the mentors frowned. He jotted something down. The remaining candidates. Blue, blue, green, blue, blue, red. The guy with the red one turned pale and was led away. Blue. His turn. He approached the stele, placed his hand on the stone. The stone was warm, as if alive. He closed his eyes. Look for the river inside. Don't look. Let go. Like with a sword. Like on the track. Not to control, but to allow. He exhaled and let go. Nothing. 1 second. 2. 3. The silence in the hall grew heavier. 5 seconds. 6. He stood with his eyes closed and his hand on the warm stone, and nothing happened. And then he thought of the crossroads, of the last moment in his past life, about the sound of the impact, about the emptiness, about how something pulled him down through the darkness, about how he fell between worlds. And deep inside his body, something stirred. Not chi, not warmth, something else, colder, deeper, heavier. As if a piece of that void between worlds had gotten stuck inside him and had just awakened. The steely flashed. Blue. A dim, uneven blue. But it flashed. He opened his eyes. The mentor nodded. He recorded the result. He withdrew his hand and stepped back. Blue. The minimum passing score. Just like with the weapon. Just like with the obstacle course. He had passed every stage by the skin of his teeth, as if someone had drawn a line and he had stepped over it by half a step every time. He sat down on a bench by the wall and waited for the rest to finish. 48 candidates. 5 showed black, 3 red. 40 remained for 30 spots. The rector stepped into the center of the hall. He said that the main 3 stages were complete, that the combined rankings would be announced in an hour, that the top 30, based on the sum of the 3 stages, would be invited to the 4th stage, the encounter with the dragon. An hour. He sat and waited. He calculated. The obstacle course, 23rd place. Weapons, 7 out of 10. Which put him roughly in the middle. Chi at the lower limit. If the ranking was calculated by average, he was somewhere between 25th and 30th. He might make it. He might not. An hour passed. The rector unrolled the scroll and began reading the names. He listened. Fan Zi, 1st. Sun Mei, 4th. Wei Jing, 5th. The names came one after another. He counted. 20, 25, 27, 28, 29. The 30th name, Liang He. He closed his eyes, opened them. 30th, last on the list. Passed. Half a step over the line again. Someone next to him exhaled. Number 31, an 18-year-old guy with a broad face and red eyes. Failed. By 1 spot. He looked at the guy and looked away. He had nothing to say. 30 candidates. The 4th stage. The dragon. He remembered that dark blue shadow over the college. The wings that blocked out the sun. The sound that made the earth tremble. And he was about to face it. Him. A former courier who, a week ago, didn't even know the sea existed. He walked out of the hall. The rain had started again. He stood in the rain and looked up at the sky. The dragon circled above the college. Slowly, like a predator waiting. Stage 4 stage was for the day. The night before it, he spent at guest house of Lian. Didn't sleep. I sat by the window and looked at sky. The dragon didn't fly at night. Or did, but without sound. Darkness over the capital was thick and dense. Not a single flame in sky. Only stars whose he had recognized. He thought about what that tomorrow he has, get up before a creature that weighs as a truck and flies like a fighter jet. What exactly does a with a dragon for him was explained. The rector said only that the dragon decides. What it not test of, and nor a test of skills. What is something? He didn't understand what it meant. But I understood that prepare for this was impossible. Either the dragon accept or not. Like the interview for it, it is. Impossible prepare, because that the employer evaluates not skills, but smell. In morning he dozed off. He woke up to knocking on the door. The servant brought breakfast and said that his father is waiting in the yard. He got dressed. He went downstairs. Father was standing at the gate, alone. Liang Shu was man. Father said that uncle had on business to the district. He nodded and pointed that. Uncle left precisely to the day when my nephew is to meet with Dragon. He left to support him. He wished good luck. He just left. They walked to college on foot. Father remained silent. He did too. At the college stood 30 candidates. Everyone were nervous. All are quiet. Fan Zhe stood apart from everyone. He crossed his other across his love and looked at the tower above, which yesterday, Sun Mei was stretching her wrists. Wei Jing stood motionless, like a pillar, with that same empty face. The gates opened. The mentors led them inside, not to training field. Not in the gym. Next, past main building, past barracks, for the library, to the foot the tallest tower. Behind the tower was an arena, round, open, with a diameter meters 100, floor stone, with carved on it symbols which he could read. The stands around, all. On the stands, people, instructors, officers in armor, several people in rich clothes whose he didn't. And in top the stands, in a separate box, sat a young, in his 30, in golden clothes, with a crown on head, delicate, black, with a single ruby in the center. Next to it is 2 in white, advisors or bodyguards. Rector Zhou Lin bowed to the box. All the candidates bowed. He bowed too. A little later, the others. The body knew how to bow, but he didn't realize who. That was the emperor, the young emperor. He remembered the face, calm, attentive, the eyes that looked at the arena as a chessboard. The rector announced the rules for the 4th stage. The candidates enter into the 1. The dragon descends. The candidate stands still. He doesn't move. He doesn't attack. He doesn't run away. The dragon approaches. It looks. It decides. If the dragon turns away, the candidate has failed. If the dragon bows its head, the candidate is accepted into the college as a potential rider. If the dragon roars, the candidate is immediately led away. He listened and tried to picture it. To stand still before a creature that could burn you with a single breath. Not to move, not to run, just to stand and wait. Fan Zhe was called first. He stepped into the arena with a confident stride. He stood in the center. A sound rang out. That very one. Low, deep, vibrating. The dragon emerged from behind the tower. It descended slowly. Huge, even bigger than it had seemed from the square. Wings with a wingspan of 30 meters. A body covered in scales the color of a stormy sky. Eyes yellow, bright, like 2 lanterns. The dragon landed at the edge of the arena. The ground shook. The stands fell silent. The dragon slowly walked toward the center, each step like a hammer striking stone. It stopped in front of Fan Zhe. It tilted its head. It looked. Fan Zhe stood. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. 10 seconds. 20. The dragon raised its head. It turned. And it left. He didn't bow his head. He didn't roar. He just walked away. Fan Zhe stood alone in the arena. His face didn't change, but his hands clenched into fists. Number 1 in the rankings. Best score on the track. 10 out of 10 for weapons. Golden Qi. And the dragon walked right past him. The stands were silent. He stood among the candidates and watched. He understood. The dragon doesn't care who you are, what rank you hold, what lineage you come from, what muscles you have. The dragon looks at something else. Second, Sun Mei. She stepped out. The dragon returned. It approached. It looked. For a long time. 30 seconds. She stood and looked the dragon in the eyes. Not down, not to the side, straight into the yellow flames. The dragon tilted its head, slowly, 3 centimeters. Then it turned and walked away. The mentors exchanged glances. The rector nodded. Sun Mei was accepted. She returned to her place. Her face was calm. Only her hands were trembling. Third, fourth, fifth. Wei Jing went out fifth. The dragon approached him and stopped farther away than it had with the others. It didn't come close. It stood and watched. 5 seconds. Then it turned around. It left. It didn't bow its head. It didn't growl. It left. Wei Jing returned with the same blank expression. The candidates came out one after another. Of the first 15, the dragon accepted 4. He turned away from 11. He growled at 1. The guy was taken away so quickly that he didn't even have time to realize what had happened. Then the 16th, the 17th, the 20th. 2 more accepted. A total of 6 out of 20. The 25th, the 26th, the 27th was rejected. The 28th was rejected. The 29th was accepted. 7 out of 29. The 30th, him, Liang He, the last name on the list, the minimum score, a courier from the slums. He stepped into the arena. The stone beneath his feet was warm. The symbols on the floor glowed faintly. He stood in the center, feet shoulder-width apart, arms at his sides. He didn't try to look strong, didn't try to appear calm. He just stood there, because there was no point in hiding. The dragon descended, closer this time. It landed 5 meters away from him. The ground beneath his feet shook so violently that he nearly fell. He steadied himself. The dragon was watching. Yellow eyes, each one the size of his head. Vertical pupils, black, deep. He looked into those eyes and saw something in them. Not anger, not indifference. Curiosity. The dragon stepped closer. 1 step, another step, 3 meters, 2. He felt the heat radiating from the dragon's body, the smell, hot metal and ozone, like after a thunderstorm. The dragon tilted its head and sniffed him. He stood there, motionless. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. The dragon sniffed him again, then jerked its head back, abruptly, as if it had been burned, and took a step back. The stands fell silent. The dragon stood and looked at him. It didn't leave. It didn't turn away. It didn't growl. It stood and looked. 30 seconds. A minute. No one moved. He stood there and felt something stir inside him. The same thing that stirred when he touched the stele. Cold, heavy, deep. A piece of the void between worlds that had lodged inside him when he fell here. The dragon sensed it. He could see it in its eyes. The yellow pupils dilated. The dragon took another step back. Then it stopped, and slowly, very slowly, it bowed its head. Not just 3 centimeters like before Sun Mei. Its head dropped all the way to the ground. Its nose touched the stone. The stands erupted in whispers. He heard voices, dozens of them, but he couldn't make out the words. He looked at the dragon lying with its head before him and didn't understand what was happening. The rector stood up. The emperor in the upper stands leaned forward. The mentors exchanged glances. The dragon raised its head. It looked at him one last time and flew away, silently. It simply spread its wings and rose into the sky. He stood alone in the arena, in a silence that rang out. Then the rector said that the trials were over, that 8 candidates had been accepted into the Imperial Military College. 8 names. His name was the last. But after what had happened in the arena, it sounded different. He returned to the gates. His father was standing where he had stood that morning. His face hadn't changed, but his eyes were wet. His father said nothing. He placed a hand on his shoulder, heavily, just like yesterday. But now it was different. Not like a father who hopes, like a father who has seen. The first day at college began with the video that they was called to the dean. Not all 8, only him. The mentor came for him in the morning. He said that the Zhou Lin wants to see him immediately. He was down the hallways of video and memorized the way. Left turn, stairs up, long corridor with windows opening onto the courtyard. Right turn, door, rector's up. The rector's turned out to be a small room filled with scrolls and books. On walls, maps, those same as he had on the estate, but anything in more details. Black lands beyond the ridge were marked not just a spot, but with details. Fortresses, faults, points of penetration. The rector sat at the table. Next to him stood Mentor. Not that who brought him, another. The woman years 40, with a stern face and a scar across left eyebrow. The rector looked at him for a long time, then asked if he what had in the arena. He replied that the dragon bowed his head. The rector nodded. He said that, for 40 years, of Dragon Lindsay bowed his head toward the ground, 3 times. 40 years, before 3 candidates who later became legendary riders. 2 of them died in the lands while defending the Empire. The 3rd is now commands the Dragon Corps in the northern border. He listened and tried not show what inside him. Everything shrunk. The rector asked Felt if he anything unusual when the dragon approached. He decided to tell part of the truth. He said he felt something cold inside, as if something had awakened. The rector exchanged a glance with the mentor. She approached. She said her name was Li Feng, that she was a chi master and would be his mentor in energy practices. She said she wanted to check his channels. He nodded. She placed her hand on his wrist. She closed her eyes. 30 seconds. A minute. Then she removed her hand. Her face grew stern. She told the rector that the chi channels were standard. The flow was weak but steady. But deep down, there was something else. Not chi. A different energy. Cold. Dense. She couldn't identify what it was. She said she'd never seen anything like it. The dean was silent for a moment. Then he said that Liang He would be enrolled in the regular program with the other 7 accepted students. But once every 3 days, Li Feng would hold private sessions with him to study this energy, to try to understand what it was and how to control it. He agreed, not because he wanted to, because refusing would have drawn more attention than agreeing. The first week at college felt like a sledgehammer blow. The schedule was grueling. Wake up at dawn, running, warm-up, breakfast, theory until noon, practice after lunch, dinner, meditation, lights out. Theory covered the history of wars with the Blacklands, tactics, strategy, the basics of command, classification of the creatures coming from beyond the ridge. Practice meant swords, spears, formation combat, one-on-one duels, group exercises. He was drowning. The theory came easier than he expected. Tactical schemes resembled routing. Analyzing the enemy's weak points resembled delivery optimization. He found parallels between the world of swords and the world of couriers, and these parallels worked. During the tactics class, the instructor set a task: defending a gorge against superior enemy forces. 100 defenders against 500 attackers. The other 7 proposed classic solutions: a wall of shields, archers on the flanks, retreating to a narrow pass. He proposed something else: not to hold the gorge, but to let the first wave through and strike the supply train. Without the supply train, 500 warriors in the gorge would become 500 starving men without provisions in 2 days. The instructor fell silent. He looked at him. Then he said that this was a raiding tactic used by steppe clans, one not taught in college because it was considered dishonorable, but that it worked. He gave him the highest grade. Fanze sat 2 seats away from him. He turned his head and looked, not with respect, with interest, as if at a puzzle he wanted to solve. Fanze had not passed the dragon trial, but had been accepted into the college based on the results of the first 3 stages, without the status of a potential rider, as an infantry commander. Sunmei sat in the front row. She had passed the dragon trial. She was on the list of 8, just like him. They didn't talk, but he noticed that she looked at him from time to time. Not like Fanjie, not like a puzzle, like a problem that needed solving. Wei Jing had also been admitted without the status of a rider. He sat in the far corner, silent, didn't participate in discussions, answered only when asked, briefly, precisely, without emotion. Practice was worse, much worse. Here, all 8 accepted riders and 22 accepted commanders trained together. 30 people, all the best of the best. And there he was among them, with 3 memorized combinations and muscle memory that worked only half the time. In the first sparring match, they pitted him against a guy named Chen Ba, strong, broad, with an axe. Chen Ba attacked straightforwardly but powerfully. He dodged. His body worked. But Chen Ba pressed on. A blow. A blow. Another blow. On the 7th blow, he didn't have time to dodge and took the flat side of the training axe to the ribs. He fell. He lay there and stared at the sky. His ribs were on fire. Chen Ba reached out and helped him up. He said that for the heir to a great family, he fought strangely. He dodges beautifully, but doesn't attack, as if he's afraid of his own sword. He didn't answer, because Chen Ba was right. He was afraid. Not of the sword, but that if he started attacking on his own terms, rather than by muscle memory, everyone would see that he wasn't a warrior, that he was an imposter, that he was a courier in the heir's costume. That evening after training, he sat in his room in the barracks. The room was small. A bed, a table, a wardrobe, a single window. He went over the day's events in his head. The tactics work. The theory works. Qi is moving, slowly but surely. The fighting doesn't work. 3 combinations aren't enough. Muscle memory helps on the defensive, but on the offensive, he's empty. He needs more. He needs to learn new combinations, or find his own style. He remembered how he had stepped into his mentor's strike during the trials. A step forward, close range, don't retreat, advance. It worked once. Maybe it wasn't a fluke. Maybe that's his style. Not pretty, long combinations, but dirty, close-quarters combat, where a longsword becomes a hindrance rather than a weapon. He took a wooden training knife out of the closet, short, 30 centimeters. He stood in the middle of the room and began to move. A step forward, a turn, a lunge, a low strike. His body didn't know these movements. His muscle memory was silent. These were his movements, his own, clumsy, slow, but his. He trained until midnight. In the morning, everything ached, but his mind was clearer than it had been in all the days since he'd awakened in this world. Second session with Li Feng took place on the fourth day. She brought him into the room under the tower, a round room, stone walls, not a single windows. On floor, their same symbols as in the day. In center of the room, a stone armchair. She told he to sit down. He sat down. She stood up behind his back and put both hands on the shoulders. She said so he close his and sink inside. Not to. Deeper. To that he felt in arena. He closed his eyes. He was breathing. He sank down. The flowed somewhere near the surface, a warm river. He passed by it. Deeper, darker, colder, and found it. Not a river, a lake, black, motionless, cold as ice. It lay at the very center of his being, beneath the chi, beneath the muscles, beneath the bones, like a second bottom. He touched it with his mind and recoiled. The lake responded. Not with movement, with sound. A quiet hum like from high-voltage wires. Li Feng behind him abruptly pulled her hands away. He opened his eyes. She was standing 2 steps away from him, her face pale. She said she felt it. She said the energy inside him was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Not dark chi, not demonic power, not a curse. Something fundamentally different. As if there were a hole inside him. Not empty, filled with something that didn't belong to this world. He was silent. Because she was right. It didn't belong to this world. It was a piece of space between worlds. The void he had fallen through when he died. A part of that void remained inside him, like a souvenir from a trip you never planned. Li Feng said she would study it further, that for now he shouldn't try to use this energy. Just observe. Don't touch it. He nodded. He didn't mention that he hadn't touched it in the arena. It had moved on its own. When the dragon approached. When he looked into its eyes. The void inside him reacted to the dragon. Or the dragon reacted to the void. He didn't know which was more dangerous. The days passed. He was settling into the rhythm of college life. Morning runs were no longer torture. Theory came easier and easier. He began to see patterns in this world's military history that others didn't notice. Logistics, supply lines, retreat routes, things that were considered boring but that decided the outcomes of wars. His tactics instructor, Master Duan, began holding him up as an example. This attracted attention. Not always in a good way. Fanza approached him after class, directly, without preamble. He said his tactical decisions were unusual. He said they didn't resemble the school of any known master. He asked who he had studied under. He replied that he had studied under life itself. Fanza looked at him for 3 seconds. Then he nodded and walked away. Not satisfied with the answer, but not annoyed either. He took note of it. The conversation with Sun Mei went differently. She sat down next to him in the dining hall, without an invitation. She set her tray down beside him and started eating. Then, between spoonfuls of porridge, she said she'd seen him training at night. She said his close-quarters combat technique was rough, but the idea was sound. That in college, everyone learns to fight at medium and long range, and no one knows how to fight up close. That if he refined his style, he'd be a problem for any opponent. He asked why she was telling him this. She replied that she didn't want to be the only rider who could think, that she needed an ally, not a rival. He didn't promise anything, but he remembered. In the second week, the dragon training began. Not flights, contact. The 8 accepted riders entered the arena. The dragon Lindsay sat in the center, huge, calm. It looked at them with yellow eyes. The instructor explained, the bond between rider and dragon isn't formed in a single day. It's a process. First, contact, then trust, then connecting the chi, then the first flight. It takes months, sometimes years. The first step is to approach the dragon and touch it. 7 of them stepped forward one by one. Each one approached the dragon, reached out a hand, touched the scales. The dragon allowed it, didn't react, just let it happen. Like a big cat that tolerates a child's touch. It was his turn. He stepped forward, reached out a hand, touched the scales on the dragon's neck. The scales were hot, hard, smooth. And the moment he touched it, the lake inside him stirred. Not strongly, but distinctly. A chill ran down his arm from his chest to his fingers. The dragon turned its head, looked at him. Yellow eyes, vertical pupils. And he saw in them not curiosity, as in the arena. He saw recognition, as if the dragon knew what was inside him, and wasn't afraid. The dragon made a sound, not a growl, not a roar, a low purr, deep, vibrating. It traveled through his hand, through his chest, and resonated in the lake inside. The lake responded. He felt it. A cold wave rose from the depths and mingled with the dragon's warmth for a second. The mentor, who had been watching the process, took a step forward. Then he stopped. The purring ceased. The dragon turned away, but not like it did from others, calmly, as if it had gotten what it wanted. It walked away. His hand was burning, not from a burn, from something inside. Later, when they returned to the barracks, he sat on his bed and looked at his palm. Where the scales had touched, a mark remained, dark, bluish, the size of a coin. Not a bruise, not a burn, a mark. He rubbed it. It wouldn't come off. He checked the other riders' hands when they weren't looking. No one else had a mark. Only him. That evening, a letter arrived from his father. A short one. Congratulations on getting in. A few words about home, and one sentence at the end. His father wrote that Liang Shu had returned to the capital and that he would visit his nephew often at college. He folded the letter and put it away in the closet. His uncle had returned to the capital, where the college was, where he was, where the dragon was. He looked at the dark spot on his palm, then at the letter in the closet. 2 events connected by something he couldn't yet see. Liang Shu arrived to 4 week, in a day of visits. Parents and relatives were able to visit cadets at special courtyard at the eastern gate. He saw his uncle from a distance. Dark blue robe, silver embroidery, a smile. That same one, empty as a shop window. Liang Shu embraced him. He said that proud, that the family is proud of. That dragon bowed his head to the ground is an honor which comes once in generation. He thanked and nodded. Then Liang Shu asked how did the training sessions. He replied briefly, "Fine." Liang Shu asked about the mentors. He named them. Master Duan, tactics. Master Cao, weapons. Li Feng, he hesitated for a second, said that Li Feng was leading a meditation session. Liang Shu nodded. Then he pulled a small bundle out of his sleeve, wrapped in silk. He said it was from his mother, healing ointments for bruises. He took it. He thanked him. Liang Shu changed the subject. He mentioned that things were unsettled in the capital, that the Black Crane clan had secured the expansion of trade routes through the northern pass, that his father had opposed it, but the Imperial Council had voted in favor by a majority, that the clan's trade caravans now passed through territory that used to belong only to the army. He listened and took it all in. Trade routes through military territory. That meant the Black Crane clan had gained access to the roads leading to the border with the Blacklands. Roads along which troops moved. Roads marked in red on the map in his room at the estate. Strategic routes. Liang Shu spoke of this casually, as if discussing the weather. but he looked at his uncle and saw the same thing he had seen at the estate. Feet pointed toward the exit, eyes watching for a reaction, fingers trembling slightly. His uncle was nervous, not because of trade routes, because of something else. After the visit, he returned to the barracks and opened the package from his mother. Ointments, 4 jars, herbal. He opened one, sniffed it. It smelled familiar, the same herbs that had been in his room when he woke up in this body. He opened the second, the third. The fourth smelled different, sharper, with a metallic tinge. He closed it and set it aside. He looked at the other 3, then back at the fourth. His mother had sent ointments for bruises. 3 smelled of herbs. 1 smelled of metal. Or maybe his mother hadn't put the fourth one there. He didn't use any of the ointments. He put all 4 in the far corner of the closet, next to the amulet he'd brought from the estate and hadn't touched since the day the stone glowed in the night. 2 gifts from his uncle, both with a catch. The next day, during the practical training session, something happened that changed his standing among the cadets. Master Cao announced free sparring. Everyone chooses an opponent. 3 minutes, training weapons. Fan Jie chose him. He wasn't surprised. Fan Jie had been watching him since the first week, studied him. Now he wanted to test him. They stepped onto the training ground. Fan Jie with a 2-handed training sword, heavy, long. He had his usual 1-handed sword. Master Cao gave the signal. Fan Jie attacked, powerfully, with a wide swing. The 2-handed sword traced an arc that could have split a tree in 2. He didn't block. He lunged forward, into the blow. Just like back then during the trials, a step inward, close range. Fan Jie intercepted the sword and tried to strike with the hilt. He adapted quickly. He stepped aside, jolted his elbow into the torso. Hit. Fan Jie grunted, but didn't back down. He spun around and pushed him back to mid-range, back into the zone where the 2-handed sword worked like a hammer. A strike. He dodged. Another strike. He dodged. A third strike. He almost hit him. He saw the pattern. Fan Jie struck in sets of 3. A strike from the right, a strike from the left, a strike from above, then a reload. Half a second between sets. He waited. First set. Dodge, 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 reload. He moved in, like a courier weaving between cars. Don't brake, accelerate. He found himself inside Fan Jie's range just as the longsword became useless. He raised his training sword and pressed its flat side against Fan Jie's throat. The arena froze. 2 seconds. Fan Jie lowered his sword. He looked at him. For the first time ever, there was something other than stone on his face. Not anger, not resentment. Surprise. Pure, genuine surprise. Master Cao stopped the match. He declared the result official. He removed the sword from Fan Jie's throat. They stood facing each other. Fan Jie said that no one had ever closed the distance to him twice in a single fight before. He said that the first time could have been a fluke. The second time was a system. He asked who had taught him to fight like that. He replied, "The streets." Fan Jie was silent for 5 seconds. Then he nodded. And for the first time ever, he extended his hand. Not to help him up, to shake. He shook it. The handshake was firm, like a contract. After the sparring session, Sun Mei approached him. She said his style was dirty and effective. She said she wanted to train with him. He agreed. That same evening, they began. She taught him to read attacks by the movement of the shoulders. He taught her how to fight at close range. An exchange of skills. Honest. No strings attached. He almost believed that in this world you could trust someone. Almost. Because that same night he woke up to a sound. A quiet one. Footsteps in the barracks hallway. He lay on his bed and listened. The footsteps stopped at his door. 1 second. 2. 3. Then they went away. He got up and opened the door. The hallway was empty, but a small object lay on the threshold. He bent down and picked it up. A piece of paper. Crumpled. He unfolded it. 3 characters. He read them, slowly, one by one. His chi channels had learned enough to make out simple symbols. The 3 characters meant one thing. Don't trust Uncle. He stood in the dark hallway, holding the note. Someone knew. Someone at the college knew that Liang Shu was dangerous and decided to warn him. The question was who and why. He burned the note over a candle. He scattered the ashes out the window. He lay back down. He didn't sleep until dawn. He began to keep track of Liangshu. Not open. Carefully. In days of my visits, I observed the where my after the meeting with him. From is he talks to. How long stays in college. In first time, nothing unusual. Uncle came. He talked. He left through the main gate. In second time, he noticed something. Liangshu came out through the gate but didn't write. Went down. He stopped by the wall of the college. I waited. After 2 minutes, from the side, a man, not cadet, not an instructor, a servant, one of those who cleaned barracks and carried water, an unremarkable man in his. They exchanged a few words. Liangshu, something told to him. A small package. He, same gesture as at guest house, by the night before exams. The servant hid a bundle and returned through the gate. Liangshu left. He remembered the bluck of the attendant. Short, thin, a mole on left cheek, dark eyes. I began to watch him. The minister was in barracks for cadets. I cleaned the rooms. I carried laundry, had access to all rooms, including his room. He began to lock the closet with key. Ointments and amulets remained inside. They touched, not used. But now he knew that his uncle had eyes and hands inside the college. And what bundles that Liangshu is passing, this is just bribes for information. Through 3 days, he decided to check. He left on the table in my room sheet of paper. On it wrote a few characters. Random, meaningless, but arranged them in such a way so it looked like a note. He left to class. Came back in the evening. The sheet was in its place, but had moved to 2 fingers to the left. Someone was lifted him. Read. Put back. Not quite on that exactly place. The servant. He nodded to himself. Now he knew. Uncle is watching him through it inside the college. The question remained. Why? What Liangshu wants to know, and what he plans to do with the information. The answer came earlier than he expected. On the 4th week, Lai Feng held with him another session in the room. This time she was alone. With her came one master. The old man with long white beard and eyes that seemed blind but saw everything. Master Yun, specialist by anomalous energies. Lai Feng said that she had invited him because that knot can figure it out with the lake inside Liangxie itself. Master Yun sat across from her. He placed his hands on his lake and closed his eyes. He's silent. 10 minutes. 20. Then he opened eyes, and in those eyes there a fear. Not fright, fear. A deep, quiet fear of a person who has seen something they did not want to see. Master Yun said that the energy inside Liangxie is not just an anomaly. It is a fractal essence, concentrated void energy from the space between worlds, the same energy from which the black lands are born, but in its purest form, without distortion, without decay, like a diamond before it became coal. Li Feng turned pale. She asked how this was possible. Master Yun shook his head. He said he didn't know, that in order to absorb the rift essence, one must pass through the rift, and surviving after passing through the rift is impossible. He sat and listened, and remained silent, because he had passed through the rift, not surviving, but dying. The rift did not kill him, because he was already dead. A dead soul slipped through the void and carried a piece of that void with it. Master Yun said something else. He said that the essence of the rift, in its pure form, is what the creatures of the Black Lands fear, because they are created from a distorted essence, filthy, sick, and pure essence is to them like fire to insects, and that dragons are the only creatures in this world capable of sensing the essence of the rift, because dragons themselves are partly creatures of the rift, ancient ones, who came from beyond the mountain range thousands of years ago, when the Black Lands were not black, but simply lands. That is why Lindsay bowed his head, not before him, before what was inside him. The dragon recognized the rift essence, and bowed to it as to something ancient and forgotten. Li Feng asked Master Yun if they should inform the rector. Master Yun was silent for a long time. Then he said no. That if information about the rift essence within the cadet were to leave this room, the consequences would be unpredictable. That some would want to use him as a weapon, others would want to destroy him as a threat. Still others would want to study him as a test subject. He said that for now they must remain silent, and teach the boy to control what was inside him. They agreed that Master Yun would join the lessons, once a week, in that same underground room. He left the dungeon and walked down the corridor toward the barracks. His head was buzzing. Fracturing essence. The energy of the void. The Black Lands are born from this same energy. The dragons came from there as well, and he carries it within him. He, a former courier from the suburbs, carries within him the energy that created the world's most terrifying threat, and at the same time, the one thing that this threat fears. He reached the barracks and saw Wei Jing at the entrance. He was standing there, waiting, not moving, just standing and looking in his direction. For the first time ever, Wei Jing spoke first. He said he wanted to talk. He nodded. They stepped aside, toward the wall of the barracks, where no one was. Wei Jing spoke quietly and quickly. He said he knew that Liang Shu was connected to the Black Crane clan. He said he himself was from the Black Crane clan, but that he wasn't with them. He said the clan was planning something big, something connected to the Northern Pass and the college, that Liang Shu was part of that plan, and that he was the one who planted the warning note. He looked at Wei Jing and tried to decide, to believe him or not. A guy with a blank expression from a hostile clan who claims he's on his side. It could be true, or it could be a trap. Level 3 of the game. His uncle is watching through the servant. Wei Jing is warning him through the note. Someone is telling the truth. Someone is lying. Maybe both. He asked Wei Jing why he was helping him. Wei Jing replied that the Black Crane clan had killed his mother 3 years ago, because she wanted to leave the clan, and that he went to college to become stronger, strong enough to destroy the clan from within, and that Liang He, the son of the commander-in-chief, is being targeted by someone connected to the clan, that they share a common enemy. He looked Wei Jing in the eyes. For the first time during the entire conversation, the young man's blank expression wavered. For a second, when he spoke of his mother, it wasn't an actor's mask. It was the mask of a man hiding pain. He'd seen faces like that on customers who opened the door with red eyes and ordered a single pizza on a Friday night. the pain they hide behind a composed face. He held out his hand. Wei Jing looked at it, then shook it. The handshake was short and dry, like an agreement between people who don't trust each other, but are heading in the same direction. Wei Jing said one more thing. He said that the attendant with the mole on his left cheek wasn't just watching. That in the last packet Liang Shu had given him, there was a powder. Colorless, odorless. It's mixed into water or food and gradually weakens the qi. In a week, the flow drops by half. In 2 weeks, it almost disappears. And that this powder had already been used once, 3 months ago, when the former Liang He lost consciousness for 3 days. He stood by the barracks wall and felt the cold from the lake inside rising on its own, without his will, without his permission. Uncle wasn't just watching. Uncle had poisoned the former owner of this body, killed the soul that lived here, and now he was about to do the same to him. The cold inside pulsed, heavily, slowly, like the heart of a black lake. He closed his eyes. Inhale, 2, 3. By the 10th, the cold subsided. He opened his eyes, looked at Wei Jing, and said they needed a plan. A plan was simple. Find evidence. Not accusations, not suspicions. Evidence that can be on the table in front of Father or in front of the rector, and which cannot explain by anything except betrayal. Wei Jing knew the structure of the Black Crane. I knew how they work. Through bribed officials. Through people who look like servants and in fact are agents. A minister with a mole was the key. If intercept the next bundle from Liang Shu. If find, there's powder in it. If I show this powder to Master Yun or Li Feng, and they confirm that it's a poison for qi, then I'll have something to present as evidence. They were waiting for the next day's visits. He kept training. He attended classes. He worked with Sun Mei. He sparred with Fanjie, who was now seeking him out for matches. Fanze had adapted. After his first loss, he started keeping his distance and wouldn't let him get inside. Out of the next 5 sparring matches, he lost 4. Fanze was learning faster than he was. But he won the 5th one, because Fanze expected him to rush in close again. Instead, he threw a handful of sand and attacked while the other man squinted. A dirty trick. Master Cao shook his head. Fanjie wiped his eyes and said that in war, there are no dirty tricks. There are only the living and the dead. Then he smiled. For the first time. His training sessions with Master Yun became regular. Once a week in the underground chamber. Master Yun taught him not to use the fracturing essence. He taught him to feel it, to distinguish it, to understand it. The essence reacted to his emotions. Anger made the lake storm. Fear made it deeper and colder. Calmness smoothed the surface. Master Yun said it was dangerous, that if he lost control of his emotions while the essence was active, it could spill out, and then everyone within a 10-meter radius would feel what the creatures of the Blacklands feel. Horror. Primitive, bone-chilling horror. Master Yun taught him to breathe, to count, to keep the lake calm, not to let the waves rise. It was like meditation, but meditation worked with qi, and here he was working with something that was the opposite of qi, with the void that existed before this world and would exist after. Every session ended with Master Yun sitting pale and breathing heavily. Contact with the essence through his student drained his strength. He asked the master why he did this if it was so difficult. Master Yun replied that 60 years ago, when he was young, the rift on the border of the Blacklands widened, and a creature emerged from it that destroyed 3 villages in a single night. 2,000 people. The master was in the squad that found the villages that morning. Since then, he has been studying the rift energy, trying to understand it, and for the first time in 60 years, he sees a person who carries pure essence within them and is still alive. He said that this chance is worth any amount of fatigue. Visiting day came in the middle of the 5th week. Liang Shu arrived as usual. A smile, a hug, questions, gifts. This time he brought a book on tactics. A real one. No tricks. He checked it later. Just a regular book. They talked for half an hour. Liang Shu asked about the meditation sessions. Specifically, how often, where they take place, with whom. He answered vaguely. Twice a week, in the main hall, with a group. Liang Shu nodded. After the visit, he left through the main gate. Wei Jing was waiting at the side gate. Everything happened just like last time. Liang Shu stopped by the wall. The attendant came out. They exchanged the package. But this time, Wei Jing was ready. He followed the attendant inside. Not him personally. The package. The attendant took the package to a storage room next to the kitchen. He unwrapped it. Inside was a small bottle. Dark glass. The attendant put it in his apron pocket. Wei Jing returned and reported. A bottle. In a pocket. Belonging to a man who had access to the cadets' food and water. They couldn't take the bottle by force. That would attract attention. They had to act differently. He thought about it all night. By morning, the plan was ready. He went to Li Feng, said he wanted to discuss something. Not about the essence, about security. Said he suspected one of the college attendants of receiving orders from outside. That he'd seen the attendant accepting packages from a man behind the wall. He didn't say it was Liang Shu. He didn't say he knew about the powder. Just the facts. The staff member, the packages, the secret meetings. Li Feng listened. Her face grew stiffer than usual. She said that the college's security was a serious matter, that she would report it to the dean. 2 days later, the staff member was detained. They searched him. They found a vial. The rector summoned Master Yun. He examined the contents, confirmed it. A poison for qi, slow-acting, inconspicuous, deadly in large doses. The servant was interrogated. He remained silent for a day. Then he spoke. He named a name. Not Liang Shu. Another. A middleman. A man from a trading house connected to the Black Crane clan. The chain broke one link earlier than necessary. Liang Shu remained in the shadows. My uncle's name was not mentioned. The rector stepped up security at the college. He replaced all the servants. But he didn't know who was behind it. He sat in his room and thought. One link. The staff member didn't know Liang Shu directly. Or maybe he did, but didn't say so. In any case, no direct evidence against his uncle had been obtained. But the channel inside the college was cut off. The powder was seized. Liang Shu had lost his tool. Temporarily. Wei Jing came by in the evening. He said it was a good move, but not enough. That Liang Shu would find another way. That the Black Crane clan wouldn't stop just because they'd lost one agent. That they needed to strike directly at the connection between his uncle and the clan. He agreed, but he understood that this would require more. More knowledge, more power, more allies, and more time, which he might not have. In the 6th week, the stage everyone had been waiting for, and everyone had been dreading, began. The first flight. Not on a dragon, with a dragon. The mentor explained the difference. Flying on a dragon is when the rider sits astride and controls it. Flying with a dragon is when the dragon takes you in its claws and lifts you up, like a bird carrying its prey, only the prey is alive and terrified. The goal of this stage is simple, to trust, to let the dragon lift you into the sky and not lose consciousness from fear. Out of 8 riders, 5 passed. 3 failed. 1 lost consciousness even before takeoff, when Lindsay's claws closed around his body. 2 screamed in the air, and the dragon set them back down. Not roughly, gently, like a mother who sets a child on the ground because he isn't ready to walk. Sun Mei passed. calmly, without screaming. She hung in the dragon's claws at a height of 200 meters and looked down with an expression he could describe with only one word: hunger. She wanted more. It was his turn. Lindsay approached him. He tilted his head. The same purr as during their first encounter. Claws closed around his body. Huge. Each as long as his forearm. Black, smooth, warm. The dragon pushed off from the ground. A rush of air. The ground dropped away. His stomach lurched up to his throat. The wind hit his face. His eyes watered. He hung in the dragon's claws, and the ground was far below. The college roofs were the size of his palm. People were like ants. Mountains on the horizon. The river, a shimmering ribbon across the plain. And beyond the mountains, a dark band, the Blacklands. From here, they looked like a storm front that never recedes, a wall of darkness stretching from horizon to horizon. He looked at it and felt the lake inside him respond, not with fear, with resonance, like a tuning fork that sounds when the same note is struck nearby. The Blacklands and what was inside him were made of the same substance. The dragon flew in circles, smoothly, powerfully, each flap of its wings like a clap of thunder. He stopped being afraid somewhere between the third and fourth circle, not because he got used to it, because he understood something. A courier on a bicycle among the trucks, a rider in the dragon's claws above the world. There is no difference. You are small. The world is big. You control nothing but yourself, and that is enough. The dragon descended. Its claws opened. Its feet touched the ground. It stood and breathed. The mentor nodded. He recorded the result. 5 out of 8. He was among them. After the flight, the mark on his palm grew larger. Not the size of a coin, but covering his palm. Dark blue with purple veins, as if a dragon's scales had imprinted themselves on his skin. He showed it to Lai Feng during the next lesson. She looked at it for a long time. Then she said that this was the beginning of the bond, that the mark was a physical manifestation of the contact between his energy and the dragon's energy, that for ordinary riders, the mark appears after months of training. His appeared at first contact, and it was growing. During the lesson, Master Yoon asked him to do something new, not just to feel the lake, to draw a drop from it, a single drop of essence, to direct it to his finger, to touch the stone on the floor. He sat down, closed his eyes, sank down toward the lake. It was calm, still, black. He reached out mentally toward the surface, as if scooping up water with his palm. The drop rose, cold, heavy. He directed it upward, through the channels that usually carried chi. The drop moved slowly, resisted. The chi was a river. The essence was mercury, heavy, thick, unyielding. He brought the drop to his finger, touched the stone. The stone cracked. Not badly, a thin crack, the length of a palm. But the stone was granite, 20 centimeters thick, and the crack ran right through it. Master Yoon looked at the crack, then at him. Then he sat down and was silent for a long time. He said that a single drop splits granite, that there are millions of these drops in the lake, that if he could ever use even a tenth of what was within him, not a single creature from the Blacklands would be able to come within 100 meters of him, and that no warrior in this world would be able to stand against him. Then Master Yoon said something else, more quietly. He said that was precisely why no one must know about this, because a power that cannot be stopped frightens not only enemies, it frightens friends as well, and emperors. He recalled the young face in golden robes on the tribune, the emperor who viewed the arena as a chessboard. If he learns that within Liang He lies a power capable of splitting the world in two, what will he do? Draw him closer, or destroy him? He nodded. Silence, secrecy, control. 3 words that had become his new religion. The training continued. He had improved with the sword. Not perfect, not like Fanza or Sun Mei, but his close combat style had taken shape. Step in, duck, strike, contact, break the distance, step in again. His weapons instructor, Master Cao, called it the mosquito style. Small, fast, annoying. Bites where you least expect it. He accepted the name. Mosquito. Fine. A courier from the slums had become a mosquito in the world of dragons. It could have been worse. The blow came on the weak, at night. He woke up from the pimage that could breathe. The air in the chit became thick, heavy, as if someone had the room with smoke. It sat on the bed. His merge was tightening. My eyes welled up. The lake inside became agitated. The surface began rippled. He felt it. Not poison, not powder, something else. Energetic. An artifact. He jumped up, opened the cabinet. Amulet. A jade amulet which gave him Liang Shu. The stone glowed. Not light. Black fire. A dark flame oozed from the cracks in jade and filled the room. He reached his hand and stopped. If he touches her hand, is unknown what. It was going to happen. He grabbed the blanket. He wrapped the amulet in it without touching it. The dark flame burned through the fabric in 3 seconds. The blanket burst into ordinary flames. He threw it aside. The amulet fell to the floor. The black flame spread. The floor beneath the amulet began to turn black, like rotting wood, cracking, crumbling. He stood in the burning room with the artifact on the floor, devouring everything around it. And then he stopped thinking. He crouched down by the lake, quickly, not a single drop, a handful. He scooped up as much water from the lake as he could hold and directed it downward, through his legs, into the floor. The cold struck the stone. Cracks from the essence ran toward the amulet. The black flame collided with the black cold. The amulet trembled. A sound, high-pitched, piercing, like the shatter of glass. Then the amulet split, in half. The black flame vanished. Silence. He stood in the room with the charred blanket and the split amulet, breathing so heavily it was as if he'd run 10 kilometers. The door swung open. Sun Mei, with a sword in her hand, barefoot, in her nightgown. She saw the scorched room, the cracked stone on the floor, him. She asked what had happened. He said the artifact had activated. She looked at the shards of the amulet, crouched down, sniffed. Her expression changed. She said she knew that smell. Dark jade, an artifact sold in underground workshops on the border with the Blacklands, used for one purpose, suppressing chi and destroying the meridians of a sleeping person. It works slowly if worn on the body. It works instantly if activated from a distance. Someone activated the amulet from outside, remotely. Someone in the city uttered a keyword or sent an energy pulse, and the amulet awoke. Liang Shu. Uncle didn't wait for a new agent inside the college. He used what was already there. A gift he himself had brought months ago, a safety net. He was supposed to wear the amulet on his body. Then everything would have worked perfectly. The dark jade would have devoured his chi channels overnight, and in the morning he would have woken up empty, without chi, without essence, without a future. But he didn't wear it, because on the very first day he felt the stone creeping inside him, a courier's intuition telling him this client wouldn't tip. It didn't let him down here either. Sun Mei gathered the shards of the amulet into a rag. She said she'd take them to the rector in the morning. He asked her to wait. 1 day. She asked why. He said he wanted to know who had activated the artifact, that the shards might help locate the source of the signal. She looked at him for a long time. Then she nodded. In the morning, He went to Master Yoon. He brought the fragments. Master Yoon studied them for an hour. Then he said the artifact had been made professionally. Top tier. Worth a general's annual salary. Activated by a pulse that could only be sent from a distance of no more than 5 li. That's about 2.5 kilometers. Whoever activated the amulet was in the capital, nearby. He asked if it was possible to pinpoint the location more precisely. Exclusive videos, story continuations, and bonus content are already available on Patreon before YouTube, so check the link in the description for early access to all new recaps and continuations.